Yes guys, hope you're all well. Welcome back to another YouTube video, and in today's video we are going over all of the charts ready for the week ahead and analysing them all so that you guys know what to look for in the markets this week. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So we're going to start on the AUD pairs. So this is AUD CHF. We can see on the weekly time frame we are heavily bearish, creating lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. We've just created a lower high potentially here. So we're anticipating price to sweep and target more external lower liquidity. So on the 2-hour time frame, to add to this overall bias, we've had this really energetic push down here on the 2-hour. We had that last week, and we can identify this previous support zone. We used a support here, we broke through here and used it as resistance. Broke through. We have already used it as support, as resistance here. So potentially it might go without us, but if we are looking for anything here, we are looking for a tap back into this equilibrium to then hopefully push further down. So that is AUD CHF, and then AUD JPY is very similar. Again, if we go onto the weekly time frame, we can see that we are on a massive downtrend, creating lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and it looks like we've just created a lower high here. So we can expect price to push further down and create a new lower low. So if we go back onto the 2-hour time frame once again, we can see similar to AUD CHF, which is good that they're aligning. We can see we've had this really energetic push down on the 2-hour. And unlike AUD CHF, this one hasn't tapped in yet, because this tap in here wouldn't have been inside. Oh, it actually was inside the equilibrium. So we have had a tap in on this one as well. But if we were looking for anything on this, it would be sells, and we would be looking for zones such as this equilibrium matched with this previous support zone here. So it could well go without us, but if there's anything we're looking for, it is this. Okay, so that is AUD JPY. And that is all of the AUD pairs that I see any potential in this week. So moving swiftly on to the GBP pairs, starting off with GBP CAD, we are looking for some nice buys on this. If we go onto the weekly time frame, once again, I mean, this looks really nice. The only thing I would say about markets like this is obviously we haven't got a lot to target in the recent. I mean, the next target is 2016 liquidity, so that is the only thing. However, we wouldn't be looking for anything but buys here. We've had a really strong push up. We've just created what looks like a potential higher low here on the weekly time frame, so we are without a doubt looking for a bounce, especially with a wick like this rejecting off of this weekly imbalance. We are looking for price to continue up. So if we go onto the 2-hour time frame, we do have some higher liquidity on these lower time frames, which is good, because obviously we'll be targeting those. If we move this fib over slightly and this support and resistance zone over, if we can get it. Oh, fuck it. So yeah, we're looking for, we've had this really nice 2-hour push up here. We're looking for price to tap into this previous support zone here. You can see prices come down. Actually, we'll move this up to there. Does this want to come over yet? There we go. Okay, so anywhere in this sort of area, probably want to tap into the 50% of the equilibrium to then bounce higher. So that looks really nice. So that is GBP CAD. GBP NZD, once again, very similar, on a really nice uptrend, having tapped in 2 weeks ago to this weekly imbalance and looking like we're rejecting really nicely off of it. We want to continue this momentum to the upside. So on the 2-hour time frame, we can see we've had a really nice push up. I can't remember if we actually caught a trade here, but I had this marked out either way and it looked like it played out. But we are looking for a price to come down into this equilibrium of this 2-hour move to potentially bounce higher. However, this is a really nice support and resistance zone here that price looks like it could have gone without us. We'll see. It could just be creating a lower high here to then potentially tap into this 50% and bounce, but we will obviously see. But that is what I'll be looking for on GBP NZD. Coming over to GBP USD, once again very similar, because obviously it's a GBP pair. we can see we've had this really nice weekly uptrend. We haven't had a tap into this weekly imbalance. However, on EU, as I'll show you in a bit, we have had a tap in, and same with DXY. So that could be a really nice confluence to show that price is pushing up regardless of not tapping into this imbalance on GU, that the momentum is that strong on EU and DXY that it doesn't actually need a tap in. So potentially that could allow us to catch a trade without that. And if we were going to, we have already tapped into this equilibrium, but as I said in my TikTok video, if you haven't seen it already, I'm hoping for a nice sweep of this liquidity into this support and resistance zone here, which is just below our equilibrium. But if we can get a tap into here and respect this 618 zone, we can look to bounce higher and target liquidity up here. So that is what I'll be looking for on GBP USD. Moving swiftly on to GBP JPY. Now this, you might be wondering, why am I looking for sells on this when I'm looking for buys on all of the other GBP pairs? And that is simply because the yen is a very strong currency and can overpower the Great British Pound, as we are seeing here, because you will see on the weekly time frame, we are not heavily bullish like we are on the other GBP pairs. And I can identify potentials in the market to go short. So we can see that overall we are creating higher lows, higher highs, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. However, it's looking like we could be potentially creating a lower high here. And we have had a very, very strong push down on the daily time frame. And then this aligns with the 4-hour time frame. We can see we created a higher high up here. However, it's looking like price may be creating a lower high here. So we could look for a retracement from this move into this support and resistance zone here. I think that was marked out from the 2-hour time frame. Yep, you can see quite a strong one. To potentially, oh, I'm not sure what that's there for. To potentially look for a short down to further liquidity down here. So yeah, the yen is very powerful at the minute and is sort of dictating any markets that it's paired with. So that is why I'm looking for the opposite on this compared to all of the other GBP pairs. So that is GBP JPY in a nutshell. Moving on to the last GBP pair, which is GBP AUD. Now, like the other pairs, very, very bullish. Again, tapped into a weekly imbalance to push higher, and we've rejected really nicely. So looking for price to only continue upwards. And once again, really strong 2-hour move, hoping for price to tap into this really, really nice support and resistance zone here. You can see support, broke through, resistance, broke through, support, support, broke through, resistance, broke through, anticipating price to use this area as support once again to bounce higher. So that is what I'll be looking for on GBP AUD. Moving on to the USD pairs, only one pair that really takes my fancy this week, and that is USD JPY. Again, the yen is very strong, and when a currency pairs is paired against the yen, we're looking to trade the same way. And obviously GBP JPY, we're looking for sells, so that means USD JPY, we are looking for sells. Okay, and this aligns with that. We can see overall we are on a downtrend on the weekly, which aligns with the 4-hour as well, I'm pretty sure. Yep. So we were creating higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, lower higher lows, and then we made a higher high and now a lower low. So we are anticipating price to create a lower high here in this sort of area, which on the 2-hour time frame makes perfect sense. Really nice support and resistance zone here. Resistance, broke through, support, broke through, came down, tapped in, used as a small bit of support here. We've now completely broken through, and we are looking to use this area as resistance. So that is what I'll be looking for on USD JPY. And moving on to the euro pairs, every single euro pair I have is looking like good potential. So on the weekly on Euro USD, so this is what I was talking about, you can see that we have in fact tapped into this weekly imbalance on Euro USD and rejected really, really nicely last week. So that gives us a very strong confluence that both GBP USD and Euro USD are going to push higher this week. And the 2-hour time frame aligns perfectly with that theory. You can see we've had a really strong push up with a support and resistance zone here that we are looking for price to come down, tap into, and bounce from. Okay, so that is Euro USD. Euro JPY, very similar. Actually, no, I don't have a thing for Euro GBP. Sorry, ignore that. I need to unmark that. There we go. Euro AUD, again, looking for buys, aligns perfectly with all of the other Euro pairs. And we can see really strong push up on the weekly. It tapped into a weekly imbalance, rejected nicely, looking for price to continue this upwards move. Now on the 2-hour time frame, once again, really strong push up, a really nice resistance zone that price has used previously and bounced really heavily from. So we are looking for price to use this exact same zone to bounce from and push higher up. And moving on to the last pair, Euro JPY. We're looking for sells, so I must have marked this up last week. So we aren't going to focus on Euro JPY because I don't think there's a setup here. Actually, let me see if there could be a potential sell setup here, because obviously, as I was saying earlier, we want sells for JPY. And yes, there could be a potential setup here actually. We can see previous support and resistance zones. So this is some live markings here, guys. Although we have already tapped into this sort of area before, so it might go without us, but we'll see what Euro JPY does. But if we are looking for anything, it's a retap into this sort of area to then go further down. So that is all of my analysis for this week. It's looking like a good week, minimal news. So yes, I will see you in the next one, guys. Peace.